The world's most notorious serial killer might never have been caught if he hadn't made one crucial mistake. Imagine a man who not only murders his victims but also befriends them, becomes a well-known figure in the community, and practices as a trusted doctor. This is the shocking tale of Dr. Harold Shipman, a man who turned his clinic into a place not for saving lives, but for ending them.
Police in Tameside in Greater Manchester are investigating the deaths of 20 people who were all patients of the same GP.
For 23 years, Shipman carried out his horrifying crimes under the noses of everyone in the small English town of Hyde, with a population of only 30,000. Over 250 people met their fate at his hands, and no one suspected a thing, until a tiny error led to his eventual capture. Dr. Shipman, known as a compassionate doctor, especially targeted elderly patients who lived alone. He would spend extra time with them, visiting them at home, listening to their troubles, and making them feel as if they weren't alone. Some patients trusted him so much that they gave him the keys to their homes. His kind demeanor made him quite popular in Hyde. People believed he was a doctor who could cure through his words alone. But behind this act, Shipman was collecting personal information, details about their lives, wealth, property, and who would be alone at what time. Once he gathered enough information, Shipman would give his elderly patients a lethal overdose of morphine, causing their deaths to appear as natural. Since many of his victims were already in their 70s or 80s, no one thought to question the sudden deaths. Shipman continued this killing spree for years without raising suspicion. However, his career of murder began long before he came to Hyde. Shipman started practicing medicine in the town of Pontefract in the 1970s, where he was caught overprescribing the drug pethidine, a powerful painkiller, to his patients, although he was secretly using the drug himself. Caught in this unethical practice, Shipman was fired from his job and narrowly avoided losing his medical license after paying a fine and spending time in a rehabilitation center. After rehabilitation, he moved to Hyde in 1977, where he resumed his medical career at Donnybrook Medical Center. Throughout the 1980s and early 1990s, Shipman continued practicing and killing in silence. However, his methods became more frequent after 1993 when he opened his own clinic. By this time, Shipman had built up a strong reputation, which allowed him to continue his killings without anyone raising an eyebrow. Everything was going according to his plan until 1998, when Dr. Linda Reynolds, a colleague from a nearby clinic, became concerned about the unusually high death rate among Shipman's patients. Dr. Reynolds noticed that in just 3 months, 16 of Shipman's patients had died, while in her own clinic, which had 3 times as many patients, only 14 deaths had occurred. Her suspicions grew when she learned that all of Shipman's deceased patients had been cremated, which was odd because most Christian families in Hyde preferred burial over cremation. Furthermore, Shipman was often the last person to see these patients alive, and they were found dead in strange circumstances, sitting upright in chairs, fully dressed, as if they had just been preparing for a visitor. Concerned, Dr. Reynolds reported her findings to the Manchester coroner. Despite this, the police investigation found no evidence to link Shipman to any wrongdoing, and the case was closed within a month. This failure allowed Shipman to continue his killing spree, and he claimed 3 more victims in quick succession. However, his downfall finally came when he chose Kathleen Grundy as his next victim. A former mayor of Hyde, 81-year-old Kathleen was found dead at her home on June 24, 1998. Shipman was the last person to see her alive and had signed her death certificate, citing old age as the cause. Kathleen's daughter, Angela Woodruff, a lawyer, became suspicious when she discovered a newly written will that left everything, including her mother's house, to Shipman. What struck Angela as odd was that the will only mentioned one of her mother's properties, suggesting it was written by someone unaware of her full estate, likely Shipman. Angela went to the police, prompting a second investigation. Kathleen Grundy's body was exhumed, and toxicology tests revealed lethal levels of morphine. Confronted with the evidence, Shipman claimed that Kathleen was a heroin addict and had documented this in her medical records. However, this was the fatal mistake that undid him. Unaware of how computers record changes, Shipman had entered the details about Kathleen's supposed drug use after her death. The computer's automatic log of the last edit date exposed his forgery. Further investigation uncovered more evidence. The police found the typewriter Shipman used to forge Kathleen's will, and the defective characters matched the forged document exactly. This was enough to arrest Shipman on September 7, 1998. As the police dug deeper, they discovered that Shipman had been operating with a consistent pattern, administering fatal doses of gemorphine, signing death certificates with false causes of death, and suggesting cremation to destroy any evidence. The inquiry into Shipman's activities was extensive, involving exhumations, forensic analysis, and interviews with the families of his victims. In the end, investigators concluded that Shipman had murdered at least 218 of his patients between 1975 and 1998. Some experts estimate the true number could be as high as 260, but a lack of evidence prevented confirmation of all the deaths. In January 2000, Harold Shipman was found guilty of 15 counts of murder and sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Even after his trial, many mysteries surrounding his motives remained unsolved. Some speculated that his actions were motivated by a desire for control or financial gain, while others pointed to the influence of his mother's death. Shipman's mother had been given morphine to ease her suffering from cancer, and some believed that watching her death had a lasting psychological effect on him, leading him to relive the experience through his patients. Shipman remained in prison until January 2004, when he hanged himself in his cell. Before his death, he reportedly confided to a fellow inmate that he had killed far more than the 218 confirmed victims, boasting that the actual number was over 500. Yet, despite his confession, the true extent of his crimes and the exact reasons for them died with him.